Hello, everybody, and welcome to your Friday lighting critique. We've got beautiful stills and beautiful animations to go through, so we'll kind of talk through that. We've got some questions to answer in a little bit. But I want to start with the animation from Kat. So this is every 10th frame. This is early, just like laying out. We call this block lighting, or like you do blocking animation. It's just like blocking out the lighting on something like this. So let me actually just step through. So it's and on a scene this dynamic, it is tough to like get a good feel with the way things are going on. But the one question that I had was, so you've put in this reference, and so the reference is going to be, like it seems like sunset, magic hour time period, right?
Right. Yeah, just because to kind of the orange lights that are coming through from the side, I kind of want it to be like a, sunset kind of vibe coming in, because that always looks cool.
Yeah, everything happens at magic hour. So the things that are, so a big thing that would have to happen is we need to see the light source from that. We need to see the window or the skylight or something, or like more of an indication of that, because like as we pan up here, it feels like we're in a totally enclosed space. Right. So at some point we'll need to work in the idea that this sunlight's coming in. Now the color of this orange light on the characters, I think what we'll have to do, and again, I don't want you light linking or anything right now. This is all just experimental, all just getting a feel for this. But like as you can see, the light on the characters is very saturated. While on the background, it probably feels about right. So we'll probably have to desaturate that key color on the characters a little bit. And that's pretty normal in these situations, because you can see stuff like the base of this light is super saturated, but then once you kind of get over here, it's less so. And it's more because we see the light source, like we see the sun, and that's going to give like a warm, glowy, atmospheric thing going on. So that's, yeah.
He actually made windows, but he didn't, from what I can tell in the UV, he didn't make it so I could make the windows transparent. So I might have to do some gobo work on the lights.
Oh, you should. I mean, like even without UVs, because windows are like you don't have to do. It depends on how they're set up.
Well, not UVs, but the mesh. It's like he just basically put a window frame on the wall and didn't create panes. So I'm gonna have to maybe move the mesh that's the window frame forward so it can have a gobo effect to it. So you see some of the window frame.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing too is to think about the end look of it too, and this is again just talking it through. But like if you end up having a look like this or something like this bright, you can really just like cut polygons out of the wall and just have some glowiness around it. Like it doesn't even need to be that well articulated. So yeah, but either way, and then so what are you using to fill this in? Like what other than this like main key light? Is there? I see like a very like a bright skylight too, right?
Yeah, I have like 4 spotlights that are acting like as spotlights would be in a warehouse that are going down the hallway or the path basically, because it's laid out like a warehouse. So I put lights above them to kind of mimic the lights that would be in a warehouse. Okay. And then I have colored lights coming in the side. I kind of wanted to make it look like it was like machine gear lights or something like that also.
Okay. I think we need to, because this kind of is like because it's one of those things where I try to prioritize one set of like one major element as the key light for a shot. I always find that works a little bit better, because then what can happen is, and it's fine if like, because what can happen is it just kind of gets muddied, and like as you get hit by multiple bright lights at the same time, it just kind of flattens everything out. So I'm fine with the idea of things like maybe in the surroundings, it's all kind of hit by this warm sunsetty light. But that those windows are isolated to the edges of the room, so we're only seeing stuff like this. But on the characters, or maybe like when he's back there, but as he gets into the middle here, then they're kind of only hit by that top-down light. So I think it's a matter of like if you're gonna have the two different light sources, to really kind of isolate them to specific areas in the set, so they don't like. There's never a point where you're seeing a lot of both of them.
Yeah, I was having kind of an issue because I would trying to make sure that the characters are lit the whole time, because the main part of the action does take place under pipes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to figure out how to move the lights around without making it look overly bright.
Yeah. Because that's the other thing too with a shot like this. It's dramatic. It's a fight thing. They can go into like there are points where we can allow them to go into some darkness and just get hit by like a little bit of rim light to fill their silhouette. You know what I mean? Like they can move through dark spaces too. As one option. So I think this is a really, really good test that you've done. I think this is a good starting point. I like that you're just rendering every 10th frame so we can get a rough idea of it. I think for the next iteration, It would be a matter of trying to. I think we should try isolating the lights down a little bit.
Okay, do that.
Yeah, and then eventually too, we'll want to do a little more look dev on the shaders here in the background too, just because they all feel
Yeah,
that's fine. Like because like stuff like this, it's pretty, but yeah, it won't. It would look. It's a little too pretty for an industrial warehouse. I'm gonna
add volumetrics and try to get some dust particles going in there too at some point.
And again, this is all just talking things out long term. We'll have to, because the badge plays a pretty big role. And it's like it's close up here, then it's like this thing that he's going for, and then he's like he knees it out of her hand because apparently if she's not holding it, she's not a cop anymore. I don't know how that. I don't know the law, but I think at some point like we'll have to figure out a way to highlight that as well. But we can do that down the road. Do you guys have anybody else have any questions, any thoughts on this? Like I said, we're just this is kind of my favorite time of lighting because it's the most like where you see the most like. Again, we're working broad strokes to find detail. So this is like the broad stroke time period where we can really like lay out the theory of the lighting on stuff. All right, cool. All right, let's hop into some stills. All right. Let's start here. So, Aaron. So I wanted to bring this up because I don't have a good answer to this. So your question was basically you're just rendering passes of just like her goggles, right? Or her lenses.
It's her hero layer. It's that blue gel layer, and I did the wireframe layer last night because that was pretty quick to process.
Yeah. I
noticed that because I render that at 4K. That actually goes into a whole other question I actually have before I leave today. I was rendering those 4K, and it's set to spiral render, which is great for this character because it means the character finishes first.
Right.
But there's literally during that camera pan, right?
Yeah.
That these left and right areas, there's just no need for it to even spiral render.
Right.
And at 125 frames, if the layer is, I think the wireframe at 4K took 1:30 per frame, but then there was another 15 to 20 seconds where it was just spiral processing these edges, and I'm like, I will never use, what? That's part one of my question. Especially, I do have a layer where I just need her eyes.
Yeah.
But I need, her other geometry to, bounce light, bounce shadow. I need that to work. And so it's I can't just delete the geometry, right, and get that same effect. So it's there's literally one layer where I only need this green section to render.
Yeah. I mean, because my first thought was that auto crop feature in Maya, but that only I think it still processes everything. I think it just saves out the saves out the pixels in that area. So that'll save file size, but it won't actually save render time. Diana had the idea of actually reducing your changing the aspect ratio, which I think would work well for this red area. It doesn't work so great for the green area though.
Right.
I think unless somebody else has a different solution, I've yet to find this solution inside Maya or Arnold or Redshift or any of those basic ones. I know studios have some proprietary stuff that they can use, but I haven't seen anything that does this. I think you're kind of you're asking the right questions, but I don't have a good solution to it.
That's fine. It's just when I googled render region,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you a lot of like the IPR, like
Correct.
and
Yeah.
highlight this region, and I was like, I get that, like I know that.
Yeah.
Um,
But you can't just, because it's like, it also comes in, if you do this with the reformatting, then once you bring it into Nuke, you'll have to put it over, like you put it over like a constant, like a black of that other aspect ratio. And then you might have to wiggle it into place too. Because it may, like, because I'm guessing it'll fall right into the center, but it may not. You know what I mean?
With Maya only allowing you to set width and height, I would imagine that if it's gonna go in from
Right.
the width. So yeah, ideally, hopefully from the center.
That would be my thought. Yeah. So I think
But
that's probably because that's you physically saying don't process outside this region. Now, like, yeah, isolating it down to just that box, I'm not certain.
Yeah, probably not going to happen. My other question is, for the still images and like the monthly challenges, I'll show you basically everything at like, I start at 540, then I go to 720, and then like just for like a detailed maybe competitive edge, like on the last day, it'll be like, oh, my hero objects. I'll go render those at 4K, so that when they output to 1080, you still get like detail. So like, now that I'm doing the animation, I regret that decision. Have I backed myself into, because if I do the pan, and on the last frame there's a quality spike, it's gonna pop and be noticeable, right? So like
On the last frame?
yeah, because like I don't know if I can really afford to like do her hero objects at 4K on my machine. Like I can maybe send it to a farm, but I'm looking at pricing options per hour on some of these things.
Yeah. No, render farms by default, they're more expensive than you think they would be, which is something that I've been trying to get a better answer for, because they're just expensive. But okay, so you're able to, okay, let me just ask a couple questions. So you're able to render her element in 4K throughout, or is there?
I mean, not really. Like
Okay.
it took on my machine. I was testing this last night. I let it go for 4 minutes, and it only got like 3%. And I was like, this will never.
Right.
At 125 frames, this will never finish. Like I can't leave my machine like just rendering for 6 weeks. Like that's not.
Do you see a noticeable difference between 2K and 4K?
I mean, if I'm watching this on like a computer monitor, probably not. When I stare at it, yeah. Like when I pop in the 4K to HD plate or whatever, like in Nuke, it pops and you see it for sure, like a difference.
Yeah. So I think like, so I mean, obviously I like to render everything as high resolution as I possibly can, because you're right. Because when you take something that's like her stitching down the middle here, or like these lines on her glove, by doubling the resolution, you actually take something that would render as 1 pixel and make it 4 pixels, which means you can get more. You just get more detail in those like very fine things. But that being said, like, 4 minutes for 3%.
It's way too much.
It's too much. It's a lot. It's like, I mean, maybe you could do it. Like maybe it's just a matter of like rendering it overnight for a month or something, and then until it's done. But I don't.
Can I do that? If I break the render like in time, does my cache come back differently? Will I see a change?
You shouldn't. No, the data should be the same.
That was a thing in Lightwave like 10 years ago, so I don't know this.
Yeah, no, I think it should be okay. I mean, I've done it a bunch and it's fine. As long as you don't like accidentally hit something, it should be all the same.
Okay.
But like this is where the calculation has to come in of like, what is your deadline? Since this is a personal project, like that's why you see artists do crazy things in personal projects, because they have the time. Like there's no like hard deadline on stuff, and then you can go from there. But I think yeah, I definitely wouldn't do. Like I think you can get away with the surrounding elements because they're so glowy and so pretty as is. Like you can get away with those not being 4K. But for her, there are some elements of her that are pretty small and pretty detailed. If you can do it, go for it. But like, if you want to get this done by the end of the month, if you want to get this done in the next 2 weeks, then just drop it down to 2K.
Yeah, I mean the goal was to have this on my reel by the 30th or the 1st, I guess. So, because I was treating these 2 animations like polishing them up, I was like, okay, this will be my monthly like challenge. Right?
Yeah.
I
mean, the good thing is that like you've got it all. It looks great. So I mean, it's just a matter of finishing the render and comping it out and being done, right? So or like maybe making like a little tweak here and there, but.
Have you ever seen a demo reel where like I'm just like sucking up so much time. Have you ever seen it like maybe do the pan and then like could I somehow flash to, or do you know that like hey now we're on the still? You get what I'm saying, like a lens wipe or like a.
Do like a breakdown, like before the breakdown, it could change to like the beautiful still.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
I've also seen it transition, like it'll pan across and then transition into like soft zoom in and zoom outs on a still. You know what I mean? Like so,
Yeah.
so you're like moving across and then like you can get away with it only going halfway and then going into a breakdown and then going into a still that just like focuses in on a few elements. You can get creative with it, like where you don't necessarily need to render all 125 frames. You could render 40 or 50 or 60 of them.
Okay. I'll give it some thought. I appreciate the.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, like I would take what you have, even just like the roughed up model, and then go ahead and lay out your edit of what it would look like on your demo reel, and then see exactly how many frames you need, because it would ultimately save time.
Okay, you know, I'm gonna do that before I start running into like all these renders. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Austin, welcome. I don't know if you are able to speak.
Oh, hey.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm doing well. I'm
Good.
pretty nervous, honestly.
Okay, well, don't be. It's good. This is a happy, warm environment. We're supportive here, and you've got a good project going, so I wouldn't worry too much. So I think out of the gate, I think it's looking really good. The biggest thing is that I was looking at the reference and all this stuff is just, again, we've got big panels of light. We have lots of overhead light. We have huge light sources, and that leads to very soft lighting, very soft transitions. Like, look at the softness of this light as it comes down here. Like, this is probably 50 yards of distance, and it's just like one slow gradient transition. And if you look at yours, you've got a lot of those elements in here as well. Like coming from this bright area down here, lots of soft transition. We've got the big panels of light. It's really starting to, the overall feel of it is good, right? It's just a matter of going in there and doing some detail stuff. Like there will be things, like this window, it's looking good. The fact that it's so broad, actually this is a pretty good example here, will lead to it, like there will be some more light bleed around the edges. There'll be more glow and bloom from it because it is such like a big part of the image. But I love that your head is in the right place with this, right? Like you didn't look at that and be like, oh, that's outside. I'm gonna put there's gonna be like a perfectly exposed mountain out there or something. Like no, you looked at the reference and you were like, no, these are very, very bright out here. I'm gonna go with that. So I think that's really good. The basic setup of the pool water is a good start. I saw that you used, I think it's an Arnold like default water or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So but like that's a perfectly good start, and then it's just a matter of tweaking some things from there to get the color. Like if we want the color to be a little bit bluer, if we want it to be a little bit more transparent, if we want to put some lines at the bottom of the pool. To kind of like make it feel more Olympic pool-y, that would be cool. The walls feel a little bit too reflective and too specular. I'm looking at these, and they're a lot rougher because they have like a matte paint on them, and so I think that if you did that, if you roughed up the specularity on the wall, what it would do is it would take this very tight specular and it will spread it out, and it will even add further to the soft feel of the scene. And then I think the other thing that would be nice, the other thing I really like about this one is how blue and saturated this fill is, just because like all the bounce from the water. And I think we could probably go a little bit brighter in this fill area and a little bit more blue in there. Just kind of play that up a little bit. And then for the character, I think it's looking. I think the character's looking pretty good. I just would say that there's a lot of red, and maybe this character has a particularly strong sunburn or something. But I would say that we could pull back the red saturation in the skin.
Okay.
And play it up. But like, yeah, I'm wondering if we can't just like take this and like, because I'm thinking about it in terms of just value, like somewhere up more along this level, to push it just a little bit further, right? In the like in terms of the shadows and stuff. Yeah, rest of it's looking pretty good. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this? And then like depending on how far you want to go, if this is just a test, if this is just like experimenting with stuff, it's cool. If you want to push it further, we could do things like put textures on these flags so they and like and just add some more detail throughout. But I think for what we're going for now, I think it's a really good start.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. I know it's really hard to put your work out there. It feels you have to be very vulnerable and you have to be like very. It's hard. So you just being here and showing up for a first day is a huge win. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Thank you for being so nice and warm.
Yeah, you got it. I only say that because I also know how nerve-wracking it is to show your work all the time, and like, we're all in the same boat. So you are good. All right, Forrest, are you here? I thought Forrest was here. Okay, Forrest, we'll come back to you in just a sec. Jordan, we'll come back to. Actually, Jordan, I'll do yours real quick, just because you had a question that I wanted to address, and we can have everyone take a look at this. But basically, you had a question about getting the because we were talking about like isolating the specularity to just like parts of the pillow, and you were asking how to do that. I'm just going to demonstrate that real quick in Substance Painter, actually, just to kind of show that a little bit. So I pulled this up, and I was like, okay, let's pretend like. And this is just one of their default models, and I just took a default fabric and put it on here. And I was like, let's pretend that this is the pillow. And we want, like, let's say this circle, this middle part, we want to be more reflective. What we would do is, like, we would go into just the roughness texture. And we would take that, and we would take this area. I can even show you in the 2D view. So this is, I'm trying to think. This is the center thing. We could just take this and just paint this. Show the roughness map. It's a little different in Substance, where it's actually inverted. Where I think it's actually. It's like the darker area is the smoother area. So what we can do is, like, you can see now, if I just like paint it in here, you can see now that this area gets kind of that specular highlight where the other areas do not. And so it would just be a matter of adjusting your texture map. So this central area, and again, I think if you're doing it in Arnold, it might be inverted from this, but I would check, blanking off the top of my head. But basically, you would just paint this area a little bit different than the other one. And you can do this in Photoshop, you can do this in anything else by just painting the map. But I just wanted to demonstrate it here because this is a pretty good way of quickly showing it off. You can see as the light comes around, more specular versus on the back, not so much. That's it. That's all I wanted to show for that. In terms of the rest of the lighting, I think that I really liking the cool color in there. I almost want just like a little bit more, like a touch more in the dark values, because like I think there's a nice haze that's over it, but I think the darkest points, like right down here, In some other areas, it just kind of like fills it in a little bit too much. I know this is a super subtle tweak. But there's that. And then I think we can also add a little bit of a volumetric light coming out of here to kind of really showcase that the light's coming out of there. I think the glow on the top of this, I think is reading, I don't know if it's meant to be steam, but it's really reading more like a glowiness. And I think we can probably, I would either make it more like wispy or I would tone it down because it's just, it feels like an overexposure. But I think this is looking really great. And then watch out for the hard shadow here. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say.
Ah, gotcha. Ha ha ha.
Too late. 1 second.
Yeah. Actually, it's just me talking too much. And then, so also like there's something going on here where like there's like I can see the purple coming down this way, and then it just like stops right there. And I'm not quite sure what that is. It might be a shadow thing too. I'm not certain. But yeah, overall though, Jordan, this is looking really, really good. All right. Is Kevin, are you here? No. Ruby, hello Ruby, how you doing? All right, so skin is looking, you know, it's funny because I think it's fine. I was just thinking about it. Like by design, I think her skin tone is meant to be a little bit darker than this, but
Yeah.
I think we're fine for what we're going for. It was just like I just pulled it up and I was like, oh, I think we originally designed her to be a little bit darker, but that's okay. I think it's all looking good. I would just. I'm wondering. Now I'm just going back to the eye of this guy, and this I didn't realize when we designed this like how much this was going to play into things, but I'm just wondering if there's a way of making the eye of the robot feel more connectable and more human. And I'm wondering if it's just a matter of just brightening up some of this, because it's just like because of the cloudiness on it, it feels. But then it almost like feels like it's illuminating light. I'm just trying to think of a way that we can make the eye feel a little bit warmer and not like I guess just like a little bit more human. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to add like a little bit of warmth to it maybe. I think something like that could help. Just like a little bit brighter, a little more. It might even be a matter of. Let's see. Yeah, like a little brighter, a little more contrast than just warming it up a little bit. I think ought to help. What do you think of something like that? I'm just doing it without asking your permission.
No, yeah. I think the previous one was brighter. It said to turn it down.
Yeah.
This one. I
Yeah.
went too far.
No, I think what ends up happening, it's one of those things, and I only started realizing it the more notes that I gave, because I used to get frustrated when an art director or director would say, you know, like, hey, they would make a note and then the next day they'd make the inverse note. And I think it's just sometimes it's just like you think something is going to work and then you see it and you're like, nope, that was a bad note. That's on me a little bit, but a little bit. It's on me. It's yeah. So I think that and then one other thing to check in on is just getting, because like I see the shadow from the girl on the wall, but like down here on the cushion, it feels a little bit filled in. I would expect this to be just like kind of totally in shadow there. So just make sure that that's getting a little bit more shadow. I'm gonna open it up. Does anybody have any thoughts on this? Any areas of improvement?
Maybe it's like maybe it's the shader or it's some low res, or maybe it's just the stream, but like the foreground curtain just feels a little noisy. I mean, maybe that's the texture. But I would say like for the end of the challenge or whatever, like that would be it would be nice to see it maybe as smooth as like the back one. I'm not.
Yeah,
It's very small on my screen.
Yeah, no. On my screen too, there's a lot of noise in here, so you might just have to adjust the sampling on that. If there's translucency, that'll contribute to noise pretty easily, and because I'm not seeing it really much of anywhere else. It's really just kind of isolated to that, so it might just be in the shader.
Yeah, I was gonna actually try to get the kind of golden, because it has like a golden
Oh yeah.
thread, I think.
Yeah.
So I was maybe thinking of adding that, like getting to really kind of pop out a little bit more.
Cool. Yeah, that would be great if you can get that like if you can get that like gold thread in there, that would be great. All right, cool. Okay, so Stephanie and Forrest will come back to did we get Aaron? Yeah. And then Andre, we had I forgot to load yours in. There we go. Right there. Okay. So let's start with this one. What's your preference? What do you think, lighter or darker?
I like the darker one.
Yeah.
I think it focuses on her face a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. Does anyone disagree or agree? I'll take either. Yeah, I don't know. I think this looks great. I think we're ready to clap. How do we feel? Everyone feel good? Let's do it. Here we go. All right. Yeah. All right. Okay, let's take a look at the this other iteration. So we've got this is the updated. We've got the previous. And you said a very funny note, right? You were like, I don't know why the outside got brighter. I'll look into that. I don't know. It's just like one of these things.
Yeah. I have no idea. I didn't change the outside light at all, but it came brighter.
We'll take a look inside. So the two biggest things for me are I think number one is getting her skin tone in the right light. Like I think she's getting a little bit overly lit. I think that her skin feels a little bit matte and squishy. I think we can dial that in a little bit better. And like the difference between what the amount of light that her face is getting versus the amount of light that her hair is getting. I think we can get like more shaping on her hair and a little less on her face. Kind of pull those
Okay.
two. So that would be number one. Number two, I want to take another pass at the Christmas lights in the tree, because they're it's interesting. They're very, how do I say this? Like they're very saturated. They're very either like this one. It's like it's very red, like right in this area, and I would expect there to be a little bit more like fall off of the light as a kind of like. Let me just see if I can. I should probably have done this before, but. So like, let's see. I mean, these are a lot of lights on these trees. Like, I'm trying to think of something at that depth that we were seeing. Maybe this one. Yeah, something. Let's just take a look at this. So one of the things is like there's a very, this is a little bit photoshopped and there's like super star flare-y things on this, but like there's a very bright source and then it kind of falls off. There are areas of darkness in here, like this gets pretty dark, but like there's the bright core of the light and then it falls off and then there are areas of darkness. So what I think is what we need is like a little bit more of the pin light of the Christmas light. And that could actually be from like a shader, if you just put like some spheres in there and then just make it kind of glowy on like one emission shader, that'd be fine. And then with these lights, a little less intense and make them fall off a little more quickly. And then we can take down the ambient light inside and really allow for some of those dark shapes to kind of start to stand out in the tree there. Like I know this is outside because I think we can take down the light inside overall. But I think that would be a good way to go.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd say let's focus in on those two, and then we'll take a look again on Monday.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. And then the outside light. Okay, cool. So we've got Stephanie and Forrest. All right, Forrest, we will. Cool. Yeah, Forrest, you always bring your A game with the reference. I love it. So, I don't know what's going on here. Like he's like scraping away at the floor. I was trying to figure that out earlier. I don't know. But the color palette that you chose is super pretty. I love this idea. It's monochromatic, and so it's going to be like playing into the values quite a bit. But it's like the hue is the same throughout the color palette. It's just shifting the brightness, and then the framing and the lighting. Okay, so cool. So the biggest thing that I think that we'll do for the next iterations, we really need to silhouette this more. So like looking at this framing, it's all about being exposed for outside the window. Like this is a really good example. Vanessa just did a really good shot with this that was similar to this too, where we're exposed for outside the window and therefore everything inside goes like a stop or two darker. And so for this, I think it can be a lot more about like setting it up for what's outside the window, and then a lot of this interior goes into the darkness a little bit more. That's I don't like that, but basically, yeah, I think that would be the better setup in terms of getting that color into place. It's interesting. Let's see. Yeah, like this one's a really good example. So it's like really soft in here. The thing I was trying to look at was like how do we get this very warm hardwood to fall into that palette? And I think the darkness will help. I think by darkening it, it'll take away some of that saturation and some of that hue, and it'll allow us to put like a purpley volumetric light coming through the window, and that'll help fill that in a little bit. And then getting that rimmed. I'm not quite sure how this cyan light on the eyes is going to play into it. I'll let you figure that out because I'm not seeing that falling into our palette. And then what we've been seeing out of the robot is just doing our best to make some connection with the eyes. The easiest thing would be just to spin him around the other way and have him look out the window with the girl. But we could also figure out a solution because it'll be silhouetted in the darkness a little bit, and we could kind of massage that into place a little bit. And then yeah, so I think that'll be a good next iteration for you. Is just getting that, man, these are so pretty, and just getting that balance of bright outside, darker inside. Because then we'll start having to work in like how do we get shaping on the characters. It'll be more of like a rim light around their outside. But great stuff. All right. Okay. So we've got, this is the newer version. Here's the previous. So a little less of the subsurface in there on the nose, a little more colorful in there. I think the last thing that we want to do, and again, I'm not looking at the reference, but I would, so the eye-dings, I just think we need to warm them up, have them match this kind of like hero key color, maybe, because we're seeing so much softness in the shadow down here, just kind of soften it up a little bit too, and then put them in because all the light's coming in from this way, put them in the 2 o'clock position between the pupil and the iris. And I think that will be pretty good. Do you guys have any other thoughts on this? Oh, I have one more thing. I'm wondering if we could put this just a touch out of focus, because it's interesting that we go from like all of this is sharp and then all of that is super blurry, and I think there's enough because of the amount of out of focus of the far background. That means that it's a very, very heavy depth of field blur. And what that means is then we could take the area, like we're really just focusing on him, and in reality anything in front of him would fall out of focus. And I think that's just far enough behind him where we can get that out of focus too. Yeah. All right. And just double check one last circle back. I think, Abishek posted here. All right, let's take a quick look. Give me just a sec to get these over. There we go. So that is the newer version. Here's the previous one. Oh, wait, no. Sorry. That is the newer version. Here is the previous one. Okay. All right. So previous to newer. Oh, cool. That is a... Do you guys see this? How our eye is now like jumping forward between these two iterations? So it's like, you know, it's kind of everything's the same. Now it's like, boom, we're all of a sudden in the foreground. And we don't really, like, we're aware of the background. There's shaping in there. There's stuff going on in there. But, like, our attention is really drawn to the characters here. So really good job of pulling the attention forward on that. The shader on the robots looking a lot better. Frick looks a lot better. The one thing about... Ugh, this is tricky. So one thing about the brick is, I'm looking at it like it just kind of falls out of alignment as we go up here. Like there's a detachment between these two, and it would, like in reality, that would be one brick. So it would just be a matter of maybe just, but like as we go down, like these are all in alignment, but then as we go up and up, this right side starts to slip a little bit with it. So just look into that and see if you can line those up a little bit if you can.
Yeah, I think it might be a UV issue.
Yeah, it seems like a UV
I was just
issue.
playing with the UV. I just didn't update the UV last.
Yeah. And then I think we can tone down the saturation on this wall. And also it would be... I'm wondering if we should see more of her shadow in there. I think maybe just a little bit of her shadow on the wall. And the other reason why I would say to tone this down is it's starting to peek through the other side of the window a little bit, and that'll help eliminate that, and it'll help pop her forward a little bit. Her skin could use some more specularity too. It feel like there's like it just feels like we could use a little bit more spec on the key side would be really good. And then similarly, I wonder if we couldn't put a little depth of field blur inside the room as well. Just make that blur that up a little bit. Not much, because it would be... We're not going to be... Like, we're not super close to these characters, but just like a little bit with the Z depth. Just blur that up a little bit. Oh, let's desaturate the coffee cup a little bit and her glasses a little bit. Just, again, it's like I'm telling everybody who lights this to do that, because that's coming in a little bit strong. And...
Mike,
yeah.
I'm not able to achieve the Z-depth focus in Nuke actually.
Yeah, you can do it either way. You can either use the Z depth and do it in the comp, or since this is still.
Yeah, I am. No, actually, I am trying to use the Nuke with the Z-depth.
Okay.
But not able to achieve the. I don't know how to use the Z-depth actually properly.
Okay. Which class is it in? Check. It's either in the compositing course or in the lighting and animated film course. I do some depth of field. Or in the environment lighting. Christ, where do I put that? Oh, in Arnold. Yes. Yes.
I'll put a link in the Arnold channel. That's like really for basic.
Yes. That. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's where it was. I knew it. I knew I said it out loud into a microphone at some point. I can never remember. Yeah, but I think it's really starting to look up. And then watch out to there's a couple little things, like her shirt is getting very bright. I think that shader can come down a little bit. And then there's a bit of, and it's really subtle, but there's a bit of a black line around her in the books here. And that usually comes from
Yeah, I guess it's a comp issue.
Yeah.
I guess it's a comp issue.
Yeah, so start like the easiest way to debug that stuff that I found is you just like if you have her and the environment on a different layer, just put that like just without any corrections or anything, just put them over top of each other and make sure that works, and then start like slowly putting in the nodes that you like, any color correction nodes, any layering nodes, because it looks like yeah, it looks like a doubling up of the alpha channel or something. That's causing that. Or like maybe there's, yeah, because you can kind of see it around her edge up here. It's just like, it's very kind of jaggedy. So something about the way things are coming together is causing an issue. And you really, it's really important to like break it down to where that's happening, and then, because it's really hard to just look at it and be like, oh, that's coming in from a color correction or a grade node. You kind of have to break it down a little bit. And just like slowly go, or you can go through your stack and just disable everything but the over node, and then start to disable them, and start to re-enable them one at a time to see where the problem starts to come in. Yeah, it's kind of it's a very like scientific approach. All right, cool. All right, great week this week, guys. Everything's good. Let's see. Yeah, nothing else. We've got this is the last week of the lighting challenge. I'll have an announcement on Monday for you guys about I'll be able to talk about what I'm gonna like career move for me, what I'm gonna do next. Hopefully Monday. I'm a little superstitious about things, so I won't talk about it until it's done. But I'll make sure to announce that on Monday for you guys. So until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the 40-degree weather if you're in my area, or the lowering to 70-degree weather if you're in Kat and in Diana's portion of the world as well, which I heard was a thing before we started. Like, oh, it's going to get down to the 70s. That sounds great. All right, you guys enjoy your weekend. I'll talk to you all very soon. All right, happy lighting, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.